Hello there, and welcome to the weekly Outside Views magazine on politics in Africa and Arabia. As expected, the long-term president of the Central African Equatorial Guinea was confirmed in office after the recent elections. 94.9% of the citizens in the autocratic country voted for Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo. The Electoral Commission announced this on Saturday evening. It will be Mbasogo's seventh term. The 80-year-old came to power in a coup in 1979 and is considered one of the longest, most brutal, and most corrupt rulers on the African continent. The two opposing candidates, the Social Democrats Andres Esono Ondo and Buenaventura Monsui Asamu, received around 9,700 and 2,900 respectively of around the 413,000 votes in Equatorial Guinea. The ruling party of the autocrat Obiang, the Democratic Party of Equatorial Guinea or PDGE, simultaneously obtained an absolute majority in both chambers of parliament, without a single seat being occupied by another party. In addition, the PDGE also represents the governments at the local level. The small country on the Gulf of Guinea on Africa's west coast is rich in oil and natural gas. However, according to a report by the human rights organization Human Rights Watch, the revenue is used to finance a lavish lifestyle for a small elite around the president. Mismanagement of public funds, corruption and torture, arbitrary arrests and unfair trials are the norm. According to the United Nations, the almost 1.5 million inhabitants of Equatorial Guinea are among the poorest people in the world. The jihadist militia Islamic State has announced the death of its leader and appointed his successor. The Iraqi Abu Hassan al-Hashimi al-Qurashi was killed in the fight against the enemies of God, as a spokesman for the militia put it on Wednesday, without giving any information about the time and circumstances of his death. They added that Abu al-Hussein al-Husseini al-Qurashi has been appointed the new Muslim Caliph. The authenticity of the message could not initially be checked, though, but it was spread through the extremists' usual social media channels. Abu Hassan al-Hashimi al-Qurashi was appointed leader in March. He succeeded Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurashi, who was killed in a U.S. military operation in northern Syria's Idlib province in February. According to sources in Washington, he blew himself up to avoid being held accountable for his actions. His predecessor Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was also killed in Idlib in October 2019. IS expert Hassan doubted the authenticity of the message. Jihadists have often faked the deaths of their leaders and commanders to reduce pressure from intelligence and security forces. It has not yet been revealed who was behind the battle name Abu Hassan al-Hashimi. After a rapid rise in 2014 in Iraq and Syria, during which IS conquered large parts of the country, the self-proclaimed caliphate is considered defeated. ISIS was driven out of Iraq in 2017 and out of Syria 2 years later. However, sleeper cells of the extremist groups are still carrying out attacks. In the fight against high maternal and infant mortality, Africa is clearly missing the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The World Health Organization, or WHO, reports in its African Health Atlas published on Thursday that by 2030 the number of women dying in childbirth will rise to around 390 women per 100,000 live births. This would put Africa well short of a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. The United Nations aimed to reduce the number of deaths to below 70 per 100,000 live births by 2030. For comparison, in Europe the rate is 13 deaths per 100,000 live births. The infant mortality rate in Africa is showing a slight decrease, though. Currently, 72 babies die for every 1,000 births. By 2030, deaths are expected to drop to 54 per 1,000 births. However, the target of fewer than 25 deaths is also clearly missed. Africa has achieved some of the fastest rates of reduction in the world for key health targets, but momentum is flagging, said Matsuhito Moeti, WHO Regional Director for Africa. And this means that for many African women, childbirth remains a constant risk. Moeti called on governments to change course and demand a greater focus on protecting mothers and their babies. An Israeli police officer shot dead at a Palestinian at a close range in the West Bank, and the incident has sparked intense controversy on social media. From the Palestinian side, there were also allegations on Saturday of a cold-blooded execution of the 22-year-old on Friday near Nablus. Pro-Israel Twitter users, on the other hand, defended the police officer's actions as legitimate self-defense. Israeli police said the Palestinian was armed with a knife. He is said to have first tried to break into the vehicle of an Israeli couple. He is said to have been shot by the driver of the car, an army officer on vacation. He is then said to have inflicted a deep cut on the temple of an Israeli police officer nearby. Another police officer then tried to arrest the attacker. The video shows a fight between the two. In the meantime, 2 other men are involved. In the end, according to the police, the Palestinian tried to snatch the gun from the policeman, but this is not clearly visible in the video. The gun can be seen falling to the ground. The policeman then draws a handgun and shoots the Palestinian dead with at least 4 shots. Police said he feared for his life and the lives of others in the area. The Palestinian news agency Wafa wrote that the Palestinian was hit by 4 bullets. Israeli soldiers prevented Palestinian ambulances from getting to the scene, they say. The UN envoy Thor Wennesland tweeted that he was appalled by the killing of the Palestinian. Such incidents must be investigated comprehensively and quickly, and those responsible must be held accountable, he said. The situation in the occupied West Bank has been very tense for months. After a series of attacks on Israelis that began in March, the army is conducting increased raids there. According to the Ministry of Health, 159 Palestinians have been killed in connection with military operations, in clashes, or in their own attacks this year. In Israel and the West Bank, 31 civilians and security forces were killed in attacks this year. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, who is under heavy pressure, has ruled out resigning. President Ramaphosa is not resigning on the basis of an erroneous report. That's what his spokesman Vincent Magwenya said on Saturday. Ramaphosa also wants to take legal action against impending impeachment proceedings. According to his spokesman, the president is considering challenging the report of a committee of inquiry in court. Ramaphosa has been under intense pressure since the investigative report into an alleged robbery at his farm was released on Wednesday. According to the Parliamentary Committee of Inquiry, it found enough evidence of misconduct by Ramaphosa to justify the initiation of impeachment proceedings. After Thursday, it was still expected that he would resign or be removed from office. Many influential representatives from politics, business, and the church supported him on Friday. The head of the Anglican Church in South Africa, Archbishop Thabo Makgoba, even warned that the country risked descending into anarchy if he resigned. The executive board of Ramaphosa's African National Congress, or the ANC party, held an emergency meeting on Friday but quickly adjourned. There were more meetings scheduled in the meantime. Parliament convened for a special session on Tuesday when I was filming this. The investigative report concerns Ramaphosa's role in an alleged robbery at his Fala Fala country estate in February 2020. A former intelligence chief accused Ramaphosa in June of hiding $4 million in cash in his luxurious mansion. After burglary at his farm, Ramaphosa is said to have organized the kidnapping and bribing of the burglars so that it would remain secret that he had stored so much money there. Ramaphosa, on the other hand, claims he was robbed of the equivalent of 560,000 euros, which was hidden under his sofa cushions. Great hiding place. The sum was paid to him by a Sudanese man who bought buffalo from his farm. Ramaphosa dismissed the allegations of his own misconduct before the Committee of Inquiry as completely unfounded. The scandal comes at the worst possible time for Ramaphosa. The 70-year-old wants to be confirmed as chairman of the ANC in mid-December. Re-election as party leader would also pave the way for a second term as president. His spokesman stressed on Saturday that the party had nominated Ramaphosa for a second term as the head of the ANC. The president took this unmistakable message to heart, said Marc. The president's understanding of this message is that he should continue with both government and economic reforms, he added. Ethiopia and Sudan want to try to find a solution to a long-standing dispute over a huge dam project. Ethiopia's Vice President and Foreign Minister H.E. Demeke Mekonnen and Sudan's President General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan after meeting in the Sudanese capital Khartoum. The dam is being built in Ethiopia and is intended to dam the Blue Nile, which also affects the countries on the river, and that's Sudan and Egypt. According to the announcement, Ethiopia and Sudan want to settle issues affecting their border area peacefully through existing agreements and mechanisms. Both sides have expressed their belief that the goodwill and cooperation of Sudan and Ethiopia will contribute to the attempt to trilaterally discuss the differences. That's what Ethiopia's foreign ministry said in a statement on Thursday. Egypt was not explicitly mentioned in the text. Trilateral talks between the countries bordering the Nile had not produced any results in the past. The Nile Dam is controversial in Egypt, as in Sudan. Ethiopia commissioned the first of the 13 turbines of the Great Renaissance Dam, as they call it, in February. The 4.6 billion dam, which is being built in northwestern Ethiopia, is expected to be the largest dam in Africa when it is completed in 2023. According to Ethiopian information, the dam will in future generate up to 6,500 megawatts of electricity from hydropower. According to a report by the child protection organization Save the Children, every sixth child is currently growing up in a conflict region. According to this, around 449 million girls and boys lived in such regions in 2021. More than half of them, 230 million, were in a particularly dangerous war zone, according to the War on Children analysis by Save the Children and the Oslo Peace Research Institute PRIO. That was 9% more than in the previous year. According to the organization, areas in which more than 1,000 people die as a result of hostilities each year are considered particularly dangerous. Children in the Middle East are particularly affected, according to the data, where every third child lived under dangerous circumstances in the past year, and that's why I included it in this video. Overall, the absolute number of children in conflicts has fallen slightly compared to 2020, when there were 452 million children, and this is the first time since 2014. However, according to the information, the overall situation is serious. The most dangerous countries for children were therefore Yemen, Afghanistan, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Millions of children are growing up in the midst of armed conflicts, said Florian Westphal, managing director of Save the Children. Every day girls and boys are killed, injured, or abused. The brutality has a physical and mental consequence for the children affected. For the report, child protectors and researchers evaluated the most serious crimes against children. These include kidnappings, sexualized violence, and attacks on schools and hospitals. Last year, 24,515 such serious crimes against children were recorded. That is the lowest value in 5 years. And according to Save the Children, however, such offenses are often not reported because access to the affected areas is difficult or even impossible. And this concludes this week's magazine on Africa and Arabia, but I'll be back with another magazine tomorrow, so I hope you stay with my channel, and I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.